So we're ready.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are around the globe. Welcome to the fourth webinar on disability inclusion, which is entitled Inclusive ICT Creating Accessible Office Documents. These webinars are organized as part of the high impact webinars UN Business Operations Strategy team. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Heba Khalif, and with me I have my colleague Luis Diego, and also we have our colleagues from Costa Rica who are going to be presenting and sharing their experiences today. So welcome everyone. First, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. My name is Heba Khalif. I have a master's degree from the University of Birmingham in inclusive education in developing countries. I've worked in a number of national and international organizations. I'm based in Alexandria, Egypt, and I worked as a consultant in the fields of web accessibility, digital accessibility, and disability inclusion. I have worked in organizations such as the Bibliotheca Alexandrina and the German Development Agency for International Cooperation, or the GIZ, in disability inclusion. I also worked in the FAO North Africa and Middle East and North Africa region in website assessments, as well as the FAO HQ as well. And currently I'm supporting the DCO in the field of disability inclusion as part, and we were working with the 16 seed funding UNCT teams in order to assess them with the operational side of the implementation of the business operation strategy. So let me first ask you about your expectations from the workshop. What are you expected to come out in terms of learning outcomes? Please feel free to write down your comments in the chat or raise your hand, and we will unmute yourself and share your experience. But before that, please let me explain that this meeting is being recorded, and live captions and transcriptions are being also, this meeting is also being transcribed, and we will be sharing, of course, the presentation and the recording as soon as they become available. So please feel free to share with us your comments about the workshop expectations.
There's one comment who was saying to learn concrete and easy ways to make documents accessible.
Sure, we will be certainly covering that during the presentation. So
let's just give a second if somebody else types,
sure.
And it's to make
sure.
that we're addressing all the needs that you have, and if it's not already on the agenda, that we can add it.
Sure.
If not, follow up with any documents for that will help you address whatever need you're having. So let us know if there's anything, and throughout the webinar you can type it in the chat. I will be reading it out for Heba. And anything else also, you can raise your hand at any moment. Let us know if you have a comment. So there aren't any comments, Heba?
Okay.
Any other comments?
Okay, sure. So in the agenda, as we said, we're going to give an introduction about the topic, and then we are going to follow that with a discussion of our theoretical background, setting the stage. We will be explaining the relationship between disability and accessibility. We'll be speaking about information access, web accessibility, assistive technology, accessible formats, and of course, we will be having an experience or a presentation from Costa Rica about their experiences in creating or in inclusive ICT. But before we start, let me just give you a brief overview about the high impact services. The high impact services are in line with the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, and the main aspects that are included in the high impact services are cost efficient, quality improvement, which means that we have to increase the service delivery, the quality of service in terms of speed and volume. And also we have to apply good practices, leveraging on the entity expertise. And the other area which we are focusing on is disability inclusion. And inside disability inclusion, we have three main core areas, which are inclusive ICT and physical accessibility and inclusive HR. In the gender inclusion area, we have two main core areas, which are gender parity and responsive procurement, and PSEA. In the environmental sustainability, we're focusing mainly on renewable energy and decarbonization. And please, Luis, if you felt that I forgot something, please feel free to jump in.
No, that's perfect, Heva, and it's an opportunity for operations colleagues or even programmatic colleagues to work together to make UN operations as impactful as we're asking all our partners to make theirs, and to really lead by example. So as you're doing your BOS annual review, your business operations strategy review, if you're working on that, these are great ways and easy ways to already target certain specific areas.
Thank you. So, as we all know, there are 1 billion persons with disabilities worldwide. 80 to 90% of those are in working age, but are employed. Mostly are unemployed because of barriers, either institutional barriers or environmental or attitudinal barriers, and we will be explaining that in a moment. So disability usually results from the interaction between the mental, physical, sensory impairments and the existing barriers in society. So what is accessibility? Accessibility is the quality of being usable, reachable, obtainable, and the quality of being used by everyone regardless of their needs. And of course, there are many types of accessibility. There are physical accessibility, web information access, and we will be mainly discussing accessible content or information access in today's webinar. So what is the relationship between disability and accessibility? Here in this slide, there is a video that I'd very much like you to see when we share the presentation with you, because I'm not sure, I'm just mindful of the time. And this video explains that disability really results from the barriers that are existing in society more than the impairments or the conditions, the health conditions that the person has. And you can clearly see that from the video. So I'm sharing, we will be sharing the link here for you to watch. It's a very interesting video, so I really encourage you to watch it. So what is information access? Information access is that it enables users to be able to identify and retrieve and use the information either available on the websites or documents or social media platforms. As you can see here in this slide, in Article 2, it defines accessible communication in the CRPD, and of course it stresses on the importance of that the content should be really flexible and adaptable to be used by persons with different abilities and needs, and this is our goal here in the UN, is to lead by example and make our internal and external contents as accessible as possible, and also for it to be usable by persons with different needs and requirements. And it's very important to relate the two concepts of usability and accessibility because they are very much interrelated. as we will see in the coming slides. As you may know, sir, there are seven principles of universal designs, five of which are very much related to web accessibility and digital content accessibility. And as you can see here in the slides, it explains all these concepts. It evolves around the concept or the notion of the universal design should apply the concept of flexibility in use, equitable use for by users with different needs, the ability to adapt this content for this content to be able to be perceived by users with different sensory impairments. So what are the essential components of web accessibility or content accessibility in general? It doesn't only depend only on the content itself, but it has many factors that are very much interrelated. First thing is technology, and by technology we mean that the content has to be made or created in an accessible manner, and the presence of assistive technology, because assistive technology would enable users with different needs to access this content, and also the operating system or the environment in which users are using this content, the operating system they're using, the web browsers they are using, all that interrelates in order to achieve accessibility. So first of all, the technology factor is very important. And the second factor is people, because technology is created by people and is used by people. So persons with disabilities have to have the necessary skills that would enable them to correctly and appropriately use the technology. And at the same time, technology creators and developers have to create the technology in a way that could be used by people with different needs. The third factor is the standards and guidelines, and there are a number of standards and guidelines that are used to that content creators developed in order to govern the way content is created. The WAI, or the Web Accessibility Initiatives, created 3 sets of guidelines to be used either by users or technology creators or user agents. So the technology which is used by web developers is called WCAG, and the latest version is version 2.1, and currently there's a draft in progress for version 3. And on their website, there is you can always find these guidelines which are in progress. Also, they created another set of guidelines, which is the user agent guidelines, which is directed to the programs in which any programs or applications that are going to be used by the users. It creates a set of guidelines that should be present in these user agents. And the third set of guidelines is the sorry. The third set of guidelines is for we said for web developers and user agents, and for creators of application authoring tools, the tools that are the web creators will use to develop their website. These tools themselves need to have accessibility related guidelines and platforms in order to be able to create accessible content. So, as you all know, the World Wide Web is generally designed to be used by everyone, old people, old and young people, people from different socioeconomic and education statuses, people with different abilities and needs. So, the World Wide Web is generally seeks to be accessible by everyone and usable by everyone. So there are 4 principles of web accessibility. The first one is perceivable. The second one is operable. The third one is understandable, and the fourth one is robust. And they are generally abbreviated in the word poor, which is used to be an abbreviation for these two principles. And we will be exploring each one of these principles in a little while. So the first principle of web accessibility, which is perceivable, it means that the web page or the accessible, and please note that all these principles are applied, can be applied not only to web accessibility, but also to all digital content. So it means that the digital content should be perceived by everyone, regardless of his or her abilities or sensory needs, such as, for example, text alternative to non-textual content should be present, like an alternative text to images and videos and diagrams, as we will know how to create it, of course. Time-based media, like some media in the web pages are time-based, meaning that if you don't hit the play button in a time interval, the media will disappear, which creates a disability barrier or accessibility barrier for some users. Also, videos should be made accessible either via captioning, audio description, transcription, or using sign language, or another technique which is called extended audio description. And if we have time, I can elaborate more on these techniques, because we have a lot of exercises and a lot of things to share. So the second principle of the web accessibility is operable, which means that the website can be used by more than one mode of input, for instance. So the keyboard functioning or the keyboard use should be enabled, because keyboard access would help users with visual impairments, users with physical limitations, users with learning and cognitive impairments to access the website, as we will see later on. Also, the concept of enough time. We should give users, website users or digital content users, enough time to interact with the page, because users with learning disabilities or learning cognitive impairments sometimes take longer time to process the information, so it will take them a longer time to produce an interaction or a response from them. So that's why, if, for instance, a form is being created and this form has a submit button, having a time limit in which users have to press the submit button before the form disappears or times out is really an accessibility barrier for users with a cognitive impairment. The page should be navigable by everyone using a hierarchical structure, headings and subheadings with heading levels, using the appropriate styles for lists and bullets and paragraphs, using appropriate markup for links, for tables, for rows and column headers. That will enable users, screen reader users, or users with cognitive impairment and learning disabilities to navigate the web page or the digital content. And here, as we say, input modalities are very important. Users should be able to use the mouse, the keyboard, the speech recognition software, the eye tracking technology, a lot of input modalities in order to be able to access the pages, and we will explain this in the coming slides. The third concept is understandable. The page should be readable by everyone, meaning using plain language is one of the essential and key elements of achieving accessibility of the digital content. Input assistance is another helpful technique, because when the user is, for example, filling a form, it's very beneficial to include some hints, like in the password field, for instance, descriptive textual hints that says the password should be minimum 8 character, and these characters should include uppercase and lowercase and alphanumeric characters. These hints would help users to fill in the forms more easily. Also on websites, if there are shortcut keys that are used to access a different part of the website, this is really very, very helpful. And writing textual or including textual hints that a screen reader will be able to read for users is going to really help them to navigate the website and understand it. The fourth principle is for the web pages to be robust, meaning that they are used in the same way, and they are displayed in the same way, regardless of the operating system or the web browser that is being used. And we will be seeing this. We will be having a hands-on experience in the upcoming slides, and I will be showing you how one website can be accessed in the same way, regardless of the operating system or the assistive technology or the web browser being used. So this is the first exercise that I really like you to do. So without using your trackpad or mouse, try to navigate to your favorite website. It could be a social media platform, it could be your organization website, it could be a website that you use in daily life. Try using the tab key to move between focusable items like links or form fields or buttons. Try using the up and down arrow keys for scrolling and for navigating between option buttons, which are called sometimes are called radio buttons. Try to use the enter key to activate buttons and links, and the space bar for checking and unchecking checkboxes. So I'll give you some time to do that, and in the meantime, I'll have to leave the meeting in order to restart the computer to be able to use the screen reader, which I will be using in the next exercise.
Thank you, Eva. And let us know what experience you're having with navigating without the mouse pad or the trackpad, which I had a hard time doing because I automatically went to the trackpad as I was navigating, and see if you're able to a website. I'm Google right now, and it's quite difficult. It's really hard to know what order the tab is going to, and in some cases, the up and down keys don't. So feel free to type in your experience or to unmute yourself as well. I was also telling Heva this is only half the barrier, right? Because you're at least seeing where the arrow or the tab is going, right? You can see what is selected and you can see the order in which it's going. So if you want to go to item number 1, you can just keep pressing the tab key until you get there. If you can't even see what's on the screen, it's really hard to remember the order and where you want to go and what else is there to kind of navigate to. So I think it's only part of the impairment or the barrier. So we have a comment on the chat, and I'll wait for Heva to come. My colleagues read it, but when Heva comes also, I read it for anybody that needs the reading support. I know she's using the screen reader as she's seeing the different chats, but when she's presenting, she can't hear the screen reader because it's very challenging to focus on what you're saying and at the same time keep hearing comment or screen reader read off everything that happens, including people joining and exiting a meeting sometimes. Yeah, so Josephine, you're sharing some of the challenges. I think it's really hard to know. I mean, I think I mentioned that in Google, and it's supposed to be a very accessible one, but it's really hard to move and to know where to go. I mean, even we're used to scrolling up and down the screen. If you don't, and it's a very vertical website, it's hard to kind of come all the way back up at all, at all sometimes. So I'm pressing the tab key and I'm kind of stuck in the search bar. It doesn't want to come out either with the tab or the up and down buttons. That's one of the impairments, and I think Heva will share some of the other ones as well, especially with documents, which is a lot of what we do, right? A lot of us may not, have the work related to designing the websites, and even at the local level, a lot of the times that's done at HQ, from what we understand. But the documents that we create that get uploaded and get shared, it's something that we can control as well. Okay, Yusuf, I
Thank you
think
very
you're
much
saying,
for
yeah, you're welcome. Heva, jump in. I'm just kind of filling in. I can read some of the, if you haven't already
sure.
read some of the comments, I can read them to you. There were two comments before as well that I didn't read about the sort of the outcomes that people were expecting. And Ayo is saying that she would like to learn how to assist persons with disability to create accessible office document, which I think you'll cover. And Heather is mentioning how to coordinate at an office level the update of materials to make them accessible. What is the best way to embark on such a big project that cross-cuts and involves so many areas? And then with this exercise, there's a couple of other comments. I'll read them quickly. It says, I don't even know where my tab went. There's so many clickable links that it gets lost almost immediately. The arrow is a bit easier to use. And I was saying in my case, the arrow wasn't working. And then another comment saying, yeah, trying with the UN Indonesia website, and it is quite difficult to navigate the tabs and maps. Josephine is saying it's very difficult. I can't see which part of the screen is the selection and when using the tab button, which is something you were saying as well. Some websites select, kind of highlight where you're tabbing, and some don't. And Yusuf is saying I kept using the tab button to select different files, the arrows to navigate through, and the button as well. So the Alt button as well.
Thank you very much, Luis, for sharing the comments. Yes, we will be covering a lot about creating Office documents in the upcoming slides, but also when it comes to creating web accessible or digital content that is accessible, that can be published in the web. I think spreading more awareness about some tips for creating accessible content will be reflected on the documents and the publications that are going to be produced by the different departments and entities and inside the agency, because they are really the principles are really common between whether it's a web content, whether it's an Office document, whether it's any kind of content, whether it's a PDF file, as we will see. The principles are the same. Maybe the way that you used to apply to implement these principles or conform to these guidelines might be different, but the principles are the same, as we will see. So I will be sharing my screen right now, and I will be using my screen reader to navigate a very accessible website using only the screen reader. And of course, I'm not a mouse user, I'm a keyboard user, as you will see. Just please give me a second. I'm trying to. I want to share my computer sound so that you will be hearing. I'm wondering if you can see my screen.
You're sharing your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we do see your screen.
Okay, I will go to the website now. I'm using the commercial software, which is called JAWS, and I will go ahead and open the Run dialog box, which is shortcut key. The shortcut key of it is Windows key plus R, and this is what I normally do when I want to open a website, so I'll go ahead and do that.
Windows R. Run dialog. Type the name of a program, folder, document, or internet resource, and Windows will open it for you. Open : edit combo. www.bbc.co.uk. 1 of 22.
As you can hear,
To set the value.
okay, as you can hear, the screen reader has read for me the content of this dialog box, and as you can hear as well, there were hints provided by the Windows operating system directing users on what to do. That like they have to type in the website and they press enter, and the website will be open. So I'll go ahead and do that. I will press enter.
Enter. Desktop. Folder view list view. JAWS 2022. 13 of 17. Alert. Online quality survey. Online quality survey.
So one of the most important things in this website here now is that the website the developers make the item of the alert on of the online survey focusable, so that the screen reader is able to read it, so that users who cannot see the screen will understand that there is a survey that they can fill if they want to. But at the same time, this alert directly doesn't stay on the screen, so that it wouldn't create a barrier if the users if users do not want to fill the survey and they want to go ahead and navigate the website. So I now will use my tab key.
Close button.
Here,
to activate, press space bar.
directly the focus is on the close button, so that I can, as I said, I can close this alert, which as I will go ahead and do. I will press enter.
Enter. BBC-homepage-Microsoft Edge-profile 1. BBC.
So now I'm on the BBC page, and I will go ahead and press the tab key.
BBC-homepage. List. With 2 items. Skip to content, same page link.
This is very important on accessible website, is to have a skip to main content link, because every website has navigation links that are repeated in every page of the website. If users want to jump directly to the main body of the page, they can just hit enter on the skip to main content, and this will move them directly to the main body of the page. But please note that some websites, the skip to main content link doesn't work. So be sure when you are making your developing your organization's website and you have a consultant that provided you with the skip to main content link, be sure to test it with the screen reader, and I will provide you with the free screen reader if you want to download and test it and use it. Be sure that the skip to main content link actually work. Okay.
Accessibility help link.
Here I have accessibility help link, which will provide me with some keyboard shortcuts if I want to use them to move to the different sections of the BBC website.
Sign in link.
Here I have the sign in, and as you can see, the visual order of the page or the focus order is the same as the visual order of the page. So whenever I press the tab key, you can see where I am on the screen. It's clear so that it will enable users with low vision to navigate.
Navigation region. List. With 7 items. Home link.
So as you, yes, sure.
What you were referring to, the skip to content, I guess when we're referring to documents that we're creating, because you were saying how sort of the web principles are the same ones that apply to the documents we create. The skip to content would be the equivalent of having headings in a Word document that we're creating, right? So that people can navigate through the document without having to read every single line from the screen reader. Is that correct?
Yes, you can say that. I will show you in the Office application how to create the headings and how the screen reader can navigate the heading. Now I'm going to do something. I'm going to put the screen shade on.
Space.
which
Screen shade on.
now you cannot see the screen. I will be using the screen reader without you cannot see the screen right now because it has an option to put a shade on the screen, so that if the users with visual impairment are in public place or public area and they are accessing confidential documents or anything, no one can just come from behind them and look at their screens. So I'll go ahead and press the H key. The H key is used to navigate between the headings on a page. So that's why it's very, very important to choose the appropriate heading style and with the different heading levels to mark up our documents, either Office documents or web content. There are 6 heading levels. Heading 1 is the main title. If there is any subtitle inside that or another level, it would be heading 2. If the title which is in heading 2 has another subheading inside that, it would be heading level 3, and so on. So I'll press the letter H.
Welcome to bbc.com Tuesday, 15 November heading level 2.
So the first heading is heading level 2. Some websites would choose to put the first welcome as a heading level 1, and anything after that would be a heading level 2. Some websites would, like the BBC, would choose to do a heading level 2 as the main welcome heading, and then anything under that would be heading level 3, as we will see. So I will go ahead and press H again.
Most G20 leaders set to condemn Ukraine war heading level 3 link.
So this is the first piece of news. I'm on the BBC News page, and when I pressed the letter H, it skipped all the content between the heading 2 and the heading 3 and directly jumped to the heading 3 item element in the page.
Trump ally Kari Lake loses in Arizona governor race heading level 3 link.
This is another heading level 3.
No uniform choice for Virgin crew on World Cup flight heading level 3 link.
And I can use the numbers from 1 to 6 to move to a particular heading level. So if I only want to access the elements at heading level 3, I would press the letter 3 on number 3 on my keyboard.
How humanity created sky puppies heading level 3 link. Pakistan's lost city of 40,000 people heading level 3 link. News heading level 2. Violent protests put China's zero COVID under strain heading level 3 link.
You see, now there is an error in the page, because when I pressed number 3, it get to the news, which is supposed to be heading level 2, and it read it, and after that it read the heading level 3 part, which is the piece of news that it was reading. It shouldn't do that. It should only go to the heading level 3. So also the BBC website will provide image description and alternative text to the images.
Footage of people protesting with a car in the background graphic.
You see, what you have just heard, this text which says footage of people standing with something in the background, it's not visible on the screen. I can now take the screen shade off so that you can see.
Space. Screen shade off.
Now you can see the screen, and the part which is I'm using
list of 3 items. Footage of people protesting with a car in the background graphic.
So the image is available. The image is available. You cannot see the alternative text, but the alternative text is picked up by the screen reader and read aloud to the users. So this is the BBC website. Do you have any question navigating this website?
I think it's just eye-opening, Heba, of how different it is and how much a difference it makes when something is accessible. And it makes me think of, again, going back to documents, which is something that we work on day to day. If you have a document that's 10 pages and it doesn't have headings and you can't see it, you don't know which part you're in unless you have it memorized, which is, rarely happens unless you're the one writing it. So the headings really help you navigate and go into the different sections. Otherwise, it's really challenging to move through.
Yes, sure. And in addition to the heading marking up the style of the paragraph, I can use the shortcut key, for instance, to move between paragraphs. Like here,
Heading level 3 link violent protests put
this
China's
is a
zero
paragraph.
COVID under strain. Anger boils over in the industrial city of Guangzhou, exposing cracks in Xi Jinping. Link China.
If the paragraphs were not marked up correctly, the shortcut key wouldn't work. I'll go to another website. Can I go to the FAO website or?
Alt-D.
Yeah, you can. I want to be mindful of time. We have about 15 to 20 minutes before we hand over to the colleagues from Costa Rica.
Okay, I'll be so quick.
Blank. Blank. W. Period. F. A. Period. R. Enter. Loading page. Home vertical bar food and agriculture. Still loading.
So this is the FAO website.
Loading complete.
Let me try
Immersive.
to do the same and press the letter H to go supposedly to heading level 2 or 1, which is the welcome part of the page.
In focus heading level 6.
But as you can see, when I pressed the letter H, the first heading that I had was heading level 6, which is called in focus. I'm not sure how is it visually, or how the page is represented visually. I'm not 100% sure because I can't see it, but I know that it's like the news flash, that the page is like that has news flashes that move around the page. And so when I press the letter H, I'm not able to go to the first heading.
Taking action on climate change heading level 1 link.
And one piece of news is set to heading level 1, which of course shouldn't be this way because the main section should be heading level 1 or 2, and the piece of news should be set at heading level 3.
Highlights heading level 5.
And here the, I don't know, highlights is set to heading level 5. You see, there's no consistency and logical page structure or page order. If I go ahead and press any number from 1 to 6 to go to the particular heading level from 1 to 6, I'm not able to perceive how the page is structured. Now I'm going to go, because many people asked about creating Office documents and how to create accessible Office documents, and we don't have much time. So I go ahead and open my Office application, my Word program, and I will show you.
Search box edit. Enter. Word, app, press right to switch preview.
I'll show
Numbers,
you how to create
blank
the
document,
headings. And
enter. Document 1.
so here now I have a document, a Word document. I'll go ahead and type in something, which I will call title.
T-L-E.
After doing this, I will go ahead and set it to heading level 1 using the word styles. Do not use the font sizing features or the bold features or the italic features too much, because the screen reader is not going to pick up on that. I'll go ahead and
Alt Control 1.
Now, as you can see, I pressed the shortcut key of creating a heading level 1. You can do the equivalent or the same thing using the heading, the H1 from the styles menu in the layout ribbon. So here I'm supposed to be at heading level 1.
Home vertical bar, document 1, heading level 1 title.
And the screen reader says heading level 1 title. I'm going to go ahead and type in some sentence.
T-I-T-T-E.
And then
enter.
I will go ahead and create a heading level 2, which I will call it subtitle.
S-U-B-T-E. Alt Control 2. Misspelled heading level 1 title. VI is the title. Is. Title. Is. Misspelled title. VI. T-L-E-T-H-T. Enter. Heading. Misspelled heading level 1. They is the title. Control. Heading level 1 title. Misspelled they is the title. Heading level 2 subtitle.
So the screen reader has a quick navigation feature, which would enable me to move between the headings just as I did in the website. I'm going to activate that. And
quick keys on.
So if I pressed the letter 1.
No more headings found.
Let me see.
Top of file.
Top of the file.
No more headings found. Heading 2 subtitle.
Oh, there's only one heading level 1, so that's why it didn't move to it. But when I pressed the letter 2, it directly moved to the heading level 2. When I pressed the number 2 on the keyboard. If I have any other heading level 2 marked lines in the document and I press number 2, it will move directly to heading level 2. If I have any marked up items, which is level 1, and I press the number 1, it will move to heading level 1. Also, when you do some lists, always use the list style. You can find the list style in the ribbon, in the layout styles in the layout part of the ribbons. When you're dividing your text into paragraphs, always be mindful of using the enter key, not the shift enter, because the shift enter key is not going to be picked up by the screen reader, but the enter key will be picked up as a new paragraph, so the screen reader will be able to move between these between the paragraphs correctly.
What is that, Heba? Sorry, what is that using the shift enter key?
If you use the shift plus enter key, you will go to a new line, but the screen reader will not be able to predict that you are in a new line.
Okay.
So when you're using,
I've
pardon?
never used the shift. No, I said I've never used the shift enter to move between lines, but maybe some people do.
Yeah. Something very important I want to mention also. When you're creating a table inside the Word documents, do not merge or split the cells, or do not create a nesting table or tables inside tables, because this makes it very hard for the screen reader to move between the page and using the table shortcut keys that screen reader users normally do. Very important element is also to use alternative text to put in the images, and you do that by right-clicking on the image. You will have an element called edit all text or edit text, which you will click on that, and then in the dialog box that will appear, you can just type in the text that the screen reader will use. Also, it's very important to rename hyperlinks in the page, because normally when you copy and paste any kind of link, it will come out as a URL, which is a very, very long title with undecipherable name. So by right-clicking on the link itself and choosing Edit Hyperlink Text from the context menu, you would be able, of course, to edit the hypertext or the label of the link. The Microsoft Accessibility checker is running on the background by default, but if not, be sure to enable it, and I will show you now.
F6. Status bar. Page, word count 6 words, spelling and grammar check error, language English, accessibility checker accessibility : good to go button. To activate, press enter.
So this accessibility checker I activated by, I use the F6 key and move to the accessibility checker. Be sure to check your document for accessibility before publishing it or emailing it to any person. So that's the Word documents. Now I want to talk about a little bit about the PowerPoint and the Excel sheets part, but can I stop sharing my screen, Luis Diego? Can you share the screen from your end, because it will take me time to.
Sure, no worries.
Home vertical bar food, Microsoft Teams,
There is
Microsoft
one comment.
document, home vertical bar, inclusive ICT.
Let me know once the screen reader stops. I'll speak. Yeah. So there's a comment saying that it's very helpful to see how it is to use JAWS from the user side. And would there be any automatic description, like alternative text generators for images, and to save time making the content accessible? I tried the MS automatic recommendations, but it wasn't good enough.
Yes, the problem with the automatic image recognition options is that they are not going to provide you with usable and perceivable explanation. For instance, you can have an alternative text, but this text might not explain to the user what's really in the image. So it's always helpful to to enter the text yourself, and you can do it as short as possible, and do not use words like image depicting or image showing or you know, do not use these two words, because the screen reader is going to recognize that this element is an image, and it will say the word image before reading the alternative text. So just enter the alternative text without the word images or image depicting or image showing.
And also, I've heard that it should be less than one line, and that you shouldn't give too much detail about it, right? Just kind of like an overall, the image is.
Yes, yes, and you have to choose the most relevant information and the key information in the image. For instance, if the color is important, you can say what color it is. But if the color is not important, if there are background decorative items, you don't need to describe that. You just need to describe the main key information that the users are going to miss out on by not seeing the image. So make it as concise and as short and as clear as possible. And there are a lot of image description criteria online. You can go to the American Council of the Blind website, which is www.acb.org. And this website has a lot of guidelines for creating image descriptions and creating audio descriptions for videos and so on. So be sure to visit that. So we are on the, we go to the slide of what is assistive technology? So from what you have seen now, assistive technology is the tools or any tool or hardware, a software or hardware device that are used by users with disabilities to work around their challenges or impairments. In fact, all of us use assistive technology in our daily life. For example, when we're using glasses, glasses are a type of assistive technology. Vacuum cleaner, washing machines, all these are types of assistive technology. So can we go to, we've seen how to create accessible Word documents, but I want to go to the slide about how to create accessible Excel sheets. Can we please go to this slide? So Excel sheets, spreadsheets are one of the very commonly used file extensions for creating databases and data. Be sure to use a simple layout of tables as you can, and avoid protecting or locking your Excel sheet, because if you do that, the screen reader will not be able to move the focus between the sections that you're locking and the other sections and cells that the user have to use to fill in data. So avoid protecting or locking your sheet. Also avoid merging or splitting cells, as we say, because this will not enable the user to understand the structure of the sheet. Always include a text description to any charts or chart elements or any graphs inside the sheet. And you can do that by, as we said, by right-clicking on the element itself. You will be able to find either an edit alt text icon or a view alt text icon, and you can modify the alternative text from there. So if we go to the accessible PowerPoint slide, creating accessible PowerPoint presentation, you will find basically the same things as I said, the principles of using simple layout, using clear header and column headers, labels for rows and columns for tables. But in presentations, you shouldn't be using tables inside the PowerPoint presentations, because it will make the presentation very difficult to navigate. So in the presentation, you will follow the same guidelines in terms of providing alternative text to any visual content. Also, do not use animations or flashy content, because this might trigger seizure or physical reaction to some users. Avoid using smart art because the smart art cannot be navigated with screen readers. always use the accessibility checker. And whenever you're creating an accessible presentation, always search for accessible templates in the search dialog box that is going to appear when you are when you click a new file icon. Be sure to in the start searching dialog box, be sure to write accessible, and then you will find a list of accessible templates that you can use. In the next slide, you will find in the slide that has the general accessibility tips, you can find some tips that can be used with either Office documents or web content, which many of you were asking about. Following these tips would enable you to create accessible content. Another kind of assistive technology that I'd like to you to talk about today is screen magnification. Can we please, Lewis, can we go to the first, can we go to the low vision slide that has the two fonts first before the magnification?
So the exercise slide with the two
Yes.
sizes of the fonts?
Yes, please.
It's there.
So, yes, thank you. So here in this slide, before going on to the screen magnification, because this is related to it, what do you think is suitable for users with low vision? The users who have some functional or residual vision, the large font or the small font? Feel free to share in your comments in the chat or unmute yourself and. So, do we have any comments about which one to use, the large font or the small font?
I was speaking while I was muted. There was a comment before from Mariana Heba. I think it's referring to what you mentioned about the Excel files being protected or closed. She's saying, what about protecting the file itself with a password?
This could be a little difficult as well, because sometimes the screen reader would not deal with these dialog boxes very well. It would stay focused in the dialog box, and it would present some difficulty to the user if you create a password and the user has to enter the password in order to enter the Excel sheet or the file.
Is there an alternative to protect a document, either that you don't want it to be edited, but you want to share it as well? In Excel, especially talking about Excels.
Yeah. So if the users are required to add to the document and type in the document, you cannot really lock it or protect it. But if the users are only required to view the content, you can always, I don't know, you can always save it in a different format that wouldn't be editable.
And we have a few comments about which text works better. So you're saying the large text. There are 5 comments that are saying the large text or the second option. And there's a comment from Heather saying, if the audio reader is communicating the text, then the size wouldn't matter, would it? I did see that the ACB website does offer different sizes of text, perhaps for those with some limited visibility.
Well, no, I mean, as we discussed earlier, visual disability ranges from mild to severe. So you might find a person who has some functional or residual visions, and some people are still able to use their vision as their learning main reading medium. So those users might find it difficult to navigate various types of texts. But should I answer the question now, whether it's suitable for choosing the large text or the small one?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it depends on the user's need. So some users with some visual disabilities would benefit from using the large text. especially users who have issues with their central vision. But some other users who have something called tunnel vision would benefit actually from the small text, because imagine yourself having to look at a paper using a tube. Put a straw in front of your eyes and try to look from the little opening of the straw to the text on the paper. If the text is too big, you're not going to be able to read the lines. But if the text is small, you're going to be able to access the text and read the lines. So it depends on the user's eye conditions. So that's why a website like the ACV provides the ability for users to change the high color contrast, or change the font size, and change the background and foreground colors, so that users with different eye conditions would be able to navigate. So it's not a one size fits all. You have to provide as much options as you can to enable users with visual impairment to navigate. So if we go to the screen magnification exercise, please, Louis, can we do that?
Yes, just a second. Okay, we're there.
So here in this exercise, you can see, you can open actually the free built-in Windows magnifier on the Windows, and you can always see how the screen changes, and try to play with the options in the magnifier from zooming in and zooming out. And it's different from using the zoom in and zoom out features on your browsers, which really is related to the question that was asked a little while ago about resizing text. Because resizing a text on a web page is different from using the zoom in and zoom out. Because when your website provides a resize text option, you can resize the text on the page without affecting the other elements on the browser screen. But when you will be using the Windows magnifier, all the icons in the screen will get bigger, or using a screen magnification software. There are a number of screen magnification solutions available. There is a standalone screen magnification software which is used by some users with low vision, and there are a screen reader and magnification software, and it's a magnification software accompanied by a reader, so that if the users have problems seeing the file or the content on the screen, they can actually hear it. Because some users with certain eye conditions experience eye strain from using their eye in longer for long periods. So they sometimes depend on the screen reader as well. So I'd like you in your own time to go ahead and play with the magnification software in the Windows, and check your the content that you're creating. Be sure to choose a font color and a font size which can be seen even when the screen is magnified, because that's the main thing. For users with low vision to be able to access it. Always use clear fonts like Calibri or Arial. Do not use too much decorative fancy fonts, because that will make it very difficult for the users to see. And use colors like black or white, black color on a white background, or vice versa. And do not use, for example, colors which have a low color contrast like black on blue, because if you have a background in black and an element which is in blue, some users who are color blind might not be able to see this element. And when we share the presentations, you will be able to find more information about color filters and color pickers, how to choose a color filter and color picker, which can be seen by different users, and so on. You can. I'm so sorry that we don't have enough time to go over it. So can we go to the hearing impairment and creating accessible content, please.
It's on the slide of general tips for creating accessible content.
Okay. No, hearing impairment and creating accessible content for users with hearing impairments.
We're there.
Pardon?
We're there. It's showing on the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Impairment and content accessibility.
Yes, thank you very much. So users with hearing impairment, as we say, they might be using a hearing aid. They might be using different modes of communication like sign language or live captions. Be sure to, when you're publishing any content on the web, be sure, especially audio or video content, is to include live captions, and do not depend on the automatic live captioning only, because it sometimes is not accurate, which of course has a negative impact on the users' information that the users receive. Also be mindful of the sound quality in your videos, because some users still have some residual hearing left. They can still use their hearing sometimes, but if the sound on the video is not clear and is not using enhanced sound quality, does have an echo or something, it might be very hard for users to hear it. The next slide, we'll talk about users with cognitive impairments and how accessible content can be beneficial for them. As you can see in this, there's a picture of someone who is using the computer, and users with cognitive impairments make use of the principles that we discussed previously, like providing a clear, hierarchical, logical structure of the page or of the document that you're creating using headings and subheadings, providing simple layout, providing easy language or using easy language. Do not use too much color or flashy animations in flashy items or animations in your documents or presentations. These all benefits users also who have cognitive impairments. Now, here you can see some tips for customizing your web browsers and your Office application settings, and I included some links to how to create accessible presentations and Word documents before. And it's very important also to enable the keyboard shortcuts in both your browsers and on your Office apps. It's essential to turn off your animations. It's essential to hide toolbars and sidebar buttons, and always check that your website has keyboard shortcuts in order to use it. And in the help menu of either the web browser or the different Office applications, you will find a section about keyboard commands. Be sure to consult this section in order to learn about using the shortcuts. Why I'm saying this? Because you might be working in an office where you have someone with a screen reader user, or someone with someone who is not a mouse user, who have limited dexterity, who might be using the shortcut or the keyboard as a main input modality. Be sure to, when you're setting up their computer or when you're helping them to set up their own computers or laptops, to mention to them these tips. Do you have any questions?
See, I don't see anything in the chat. No, we have about 15 minutes. I just want to be mindful again of
Sure. So I wouldn't have time to go through the rest of the presentation, but we will be sharing the presentation. And I would like to give the floor to our colleagues from Costa Rica to relate or to share with us their experiences before concluding the webinar. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eva, and thank you, Luis, for this space, and colleagues for being here. We wanted to it's very useful, everything you are telling, so we will for sure integrate it with our strategy. But till now, we have taken some actions that we want to share with all of you. The communication interagency group in Costa Rica, it assessed the necessity of actually creating inclusive, accessible communication materials. So what they did as a group, interagency group, was creating a guideline with some minimum requirements that all agencies should apply in the country, and these guidelines were consulted since the design of it with the UNDIS group. So the idea was to consult them during the entire process. As you can imagine, it was it's something very practical, and the idea is to give some tips and some rules to have in general. Not only PDFs, but also videos and other communication material, social media, some practical tips to actually apply. This was very important, and at the same time, we can do every day better. So the group also participated in the disability and inclusion training. That is an action that is part of the HR pillar of the Global Strategic Partnership for Disability and Inclusion, to have actually an integrated view of how to have a really accessible communication and inclusive communication. Of course, there are some challenges. So if we can see in the next slide, if you can please go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you very much. We have some next steps to take. So first of all, as part of the Global Strategic Partnership for Disability and Inclusion project, there is a pillar on ICT, and we are planning to make an assessment of the website of the United Nations in Costa Rica. From this assessment, we want also to integrate the assessment with the guidelines that we have already created. And the final step will be to implement the required actions that came out from the assessment, and of course from the guidelines. All these is actually not that easy as it seems, because I've seen in a comment at the beginning of this meeting that is actually very difficult to ensure that everyone applies, and it has to be a systematic approach. So this is like one of the first challenges for sure. It's not easy to find experts to perform this kind of assessment. So in the case of the ICT assessments of our website, we have to reopen the position, because in the first call we had we didn't have the right profile and very few applications. So we believe this is difficult because we have to find both someone that is expert in both like tech and inclusion and disability. So that's not easy at all. And another very important challenge is that we can create guidelines, we can assess, we can do many things to actually increase awareness and share some tools and do trainings. But to ensure that the actual adoption is to change a mindset. So this is something that for sure is a challenge, but that also guides us to actually measure how within the country, starting from our teams and all the agencies, we can actually make a real change and change the way we are used to produce documents or share information. So these are our challenges, and this training that we're doing today is a very interesting step to integrate also with our strategy and challenges. Thank you very much. Any question, we are open to answer.
Thank you very much, Valeria. I'll let Heba. We can't hear you just in case, but I think it's good to see the process and the steps that you have taken in order to create that behavioral change, and that it is, again, and we speak about this in disability inclusion in general, it's a journey. It's creating, cultural shifts in kind of doing accessibility checks and just the way that we work. So it does take time. Taking concrete steps definitely makes a difference in getting there. If I see
Thank you.
you're posting some in the
Yeah.
chat, but let us know. Yeah, perfect.
Yes, sure. So I posted here the link for the website for the NVDA free screen reader that you can use when you're creating any digital content. Always test it with a screen reader to make sure that it's accessible, whether it's an office document or when you are testing your website, because it's very important when you are when you want to hire a consultant to do your website assessment, is always for you to have an overview about the main accessibility challenges that you might face on your organization's website. And there's another website that I really encourage you to visit. I will post it in the chat in a few moments. It's called WebAIM, or Web Accessibility in Mind. This website provides you with a tool. It's an online automatic assessment website assessment tool that you can use in order to assess your website for the main accessibility issues like headings and color contrast and all that. It's not very comprehensive, of course, because no automatic accessibility tool will be able to check for all the accessibility errors on the website. And as we discussed earlier, there's a very there's an interrelation between accessibility and usability. So these tools are only used as a starting point for you to just guide you about what are the main steps that you need to take. And I will post this website in a few moments. And do we have any questions?
There's one question in the chat asking, would there be offices with experiences using automatic web accessibility checker as a monitoring tool?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Yeah,
Can you please?
the question is asking if there are offices, thinking it's country offices,
Yeah.
that have experience using web accessibility checkers as a monitoring tool.
Well, as I was saying, using only automatic web accessibility checking tools is not advisable, and using only automatic web accessibility fixers are not advisable, because as we previously said, accessibility is very much related to the user-centered experience and the human-centered approach and user-centered experience. So always consult with persons with disabilities and with diverse needs to make sure that your content and your website is accessible. And the starting point is the incremental changes that we have to go to in order for this disability inclusion journey to reach to our desired destination, is to hire persons with disabilities in the organizations if you can, in order to assess your content and to provide you with guidelines, as you say, about how to create accessible content. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, there is another question from Ariana asking, are dashboards, for example, PowerPoint, Power BI, readable through a screen reader? And is there any best practice to follow when developing them?
You mean online presentations platforms?
No, they mean a dashboard like in Power BI. So like a digital dashboard where it kind of showcases a lot of data and maybe graphs.
Oh yeah. I didn't use one recently, but as far as I know, that some of these boards might not be very accessible if you would not be able to include, of course, the alternative text for describing the visual contents that is available. So it's the same principle. If you are uploading an online presentation or something on an online platform or online dashboards, be sure to include the alternative text to images, to use simple layout for tables, to describe chart and graph elements. And if you have something particular in mind, please feel free to reach out to me and send me whatever dashboard you want to assess, and I would be happy to assess it for you and tell you if it's accessible or not, and if the data is readable.
I think that's a great option. I think we'll also share and go through the BOS dashboard. We have one. I don't know if you've seen it, but to also see if there are some tips that could be applicable across different projects. We don't have any other question in the chat. Let us know if there is anything else or any other resources that you would like, or things that perhaps you wanted to hear more of, so that we can share that with you, and the follow-up documents, and also that to let you know that we are available if you need more specific kind of either assessment or support with accessible documents and then digital assets. Not sure, Heba, if you want to go into the concluding slides, and we have about 4 minutes.
Yes, please, can we go to the concluding slides? So I hope that I wanted, I don't know if we have enough time. I'm just mindful of time for you to share with us your main outcomes or your main takeaways of today's session. If you want to share within the comments, within the chat box, even after the presentation, after we finish the presentation, any takeaways from the session, we'd be happy to read through them. And of course, as Louis shared, please feel, we would appreciate it if you could provide feedback on the webinar using the online survey forms. And please feel free, or we'd like to see you in the upcoming webinar. We have one webinar left, which is going to be held on the 21st or the 24th of November, about hosting accessible online meeting. We would love to for you to join and participate. And also, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any question relating to accessible creating accessible digital content. The presentation had a lot more about alternative formats and about the different file extensions and all that, but unfortunately, because of the time, I wasn't able to go through that. So please feel free to reach out to me and to Luis Diego for any questions. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I leave the floor to Luis Diego for any final comments. Thank you very much.
Not any final comments. Have I just a comment in the chat box from Mariana saying that the main takeaway from her side or from their side is to keep things simple and straightforward in order to make them more accessible, And I see you have your hand raised as well. So please.
Yes, hi, Luis and Heba. Thank you so much for the training. I actually have a more generic question or request, because I wasn't able to join the first two trainings since I hadn't joined yet the organization. Is it possible to receive the recordings or to be added maybe to the Teams chat where the recording was saved? Because I love to catch up on them. Thanks.
Definitely, we can share all the resources and recording on YouTube, so all organizations can access them. So we'll share that in the chat in a second, and you can kind of navigate through the different disability and their trainings there, and we can share the resources as well, like the PDFs, presentations as well.
Great, thanks.
It's welcome. There's another comment saying it was very helpful to do the exercise and see how the screen readers work. Thank you so much for such an informative training. And then Heather saying, thank you for this informative presentation. I look forward to reviewing the information again when you send it. So I think with that, we can wrap up. Heba, thank you everyone for coming. We'll be sharing the recording and the slides, and we look forward to seeing you in the other presentations. And again, feel free to reach out if you need support with a specific, any one of the things covered in this webinar, as well as in the other webinars. So have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.